Hello and welcome to Dev Talks. This is Adi Achint. Today I'm here with Lieutenant General Ravi Shankar in a new series of a program called the Neighbourhood Watch, wherein we will be looking at various activities and of interest towards India that happen in India's neighbourhood. Lieutenant General Ravi Shankar is a retired Director General of the Artillery. He has deep knowledge, understanding of strategic planning and acquisition. He is now a professor in the Aerospace Department of the Indian Institute of Technology in Madras. He also has a blog called the gunnershot.com with over 200 articles, and I personally have had the privilege of talking to him for more than about 15 times. Thank you, sir, for joining me once again.
Thanks a lot, Adi. It's great to be here and start a new show with you. But before we go ahead, I'd like to convey my best wishes and prayers to all those people who are suffering from the Chinese virus. I hope they recover, and I hope our country recovers. And I also give you my best wishes to take care of yourself and your family.
Thank you, sir, and likewise as well.
Yeah. Thank you. And
why I picked this up is because one thing I've realized is that the neighborhood around India has been pretty active for a long time. And a lot of people actually do cover that. But I have realized that we have not been able to join the dots with regards to the activities around India's neighborhood. What is happening? Who is behind it? I mean, I'm sure by now everybody knows who's behind it, but what exactly are the plans? So here is something that I wanted to do to figure out if we can join the dots and see a pattern emerging. So I'd like to start with Afghanistan. So there's a very interesting news snippet that has come out, and I will be putting it across here, where the Chinese are basically pushing the Afghans on their own to build up a road in the Wakhan corridor in a place in a province called the Badkhshan province. Now, this Badkhshan province is the easternmost province of Afghanistan. It is a short little strip of land that actually goes across, as you'll be able to see in the map, bordering China. And the G314 comes down from Kashgar from there. So suddenly one sees a pattern emerging in that particular aspect. And I mean, we all know Afghanistan is full of minerals. Is that what the Chinese are going in for, or is there something that they're looking for more?
see, basically, it is for minerals, right? And they wanted to get a foot into Afghanistan, and they've been eyeing it for a long time. China goes in wherever there is money and nothing more. So that is why that road is coming up. But there are tags along with it, in the sense that, as we know that China is going to, USA is going to withdraw from there sooner or later. In fact, they've said September they'll be withdrawing. And then you're going to see a lot of permutations, combinations coming up there. And my own view is that Afghanistan will go back to the time of the 80s, a lot of confusion. Because so far, till such time the US troops were there, things were okay. I mean, I wouldn't say okay, but under some control, but it's going to degenerate, there's no doubt. And China wants to enter this, all the best to them. China is at risk at this point of time. They might be going in for minerals, but what's going to happen is that they might get sucked into Afghanistan through this road. When you lay out a communication system, it's two ways. And so the insurance which US troops gave to China on radicalization or whatever you call it, going into Kashgar or going into Xinjiang is gone. See, everyone in Afghanistan was focused towards USA. If that is gone and China steps in, they'll start focusing on China, to USA, on China. And you can't stop this Islamic radicalization going there. And you can't bank on Pakistan to stem the tide because Pakistan itself will suffer the problem. So I don't see a great future for China in that. Though China will try to bribe its way out by bribing everyone. But if what one has learned about Afghanistan over the past 20, 30 years, they'll take money from everyone and do what they want. So that is where it is. And
That is interesting.
but
But
in any case, it's only 15% done. There's a long way to go.
my question still remains. I mean, Chinese have been very planned in their entire thing, and they've taken pretty much the entire world by surprise by their activities. It seems a little weird for the Chinese to step into a quagmire like Afghanistan, looking at an opportunity for some minerals or something like that.
Well, they don't have a choice in the sense if they do nothing anyway, the instability in Afghanistan will touch them.
Mm.
See, the instability in Afghanistan is going to touch Pakistan. It is going to touch China. It is going to touch Iran. There's no doubt about that. These three countries. So they are trying to be proactive by trying to go in and get something out of it. But how effective they will be is a $1 million question. And we shouldn't forget that Afghanistan is the graveyard of empires.
Mm.
Who knows? China is heading in that direction.
And that is, I mean, it's very interesting that you observe that Iran, Pakistan, as well as China, leaving China separate, Iran and Pakistan have very different religious sects which are diametrically opposite each other. That seems to be a seed for ethnic tensions coming up in that region.
Yeah, there is going to be. See, at the end of the day, you just think China and Iran have a new equation. Pakistan, China had a equation always. Pakistan and Iran have always had a hot and cold relationship, right? But now, if Afghanistan is going to go into instability, Iran will take its own steps to help itself, or rather, keep instability out of its region.
Mm.
Right, that entire area near Zahedan and the Sistan Balochistan area. Uh, they also have this Quds force which they'll deploy. But whom will they deploy against is a question mark. Whether they'll deploy it against Pakistan or China is a matter of this thing. So actually, it's a quagmire, and this quagmire is going to get uglier when the Americans walk away. I don't think we have any solutions there.
I think it's our interest that we'll have to look at, open up a channel of discussion.
Yeah, that's it.
So you mentioned Pakistan. So I'm going to actually jump over to Pakistan. It's been rather quiet for the past some time, apart from the odd statement on the rhetoric which has been observed. And I don't think anybody pays even attention to what comes out as far as the 370 rhetoric is concerned from Pakistan. They've also been quiet about Afghanistan for a long time. They've been, of course, dealing with their own things within the country. What is interesting is the Pakistan Army chief's small comment that came out sometime back that, he basically didn't say it in the simple words, but he kind of sidelined away from the Article 370 discussion. That puts a barrier between the government and the army. And this is a situation that we've seen before the Prime Minister of the country is replaced. Do you see that happening this time as well?
See, Article 370, I think they're reconciled to the fact it can't go back, but they have to publicly say that, 370, roll back and go back to August 5. It can't happen because neither has their army chief made a mention, and recently that foreign minister of theirs, he said, no, Article 370 is their internal affair. And then he had to retract his statement and all that. 370, I think they generally reconciled, it can't go back. Peace with India can't happen unless 370 is rolled back, because that's what their public expectation they have raised. Okay, so that can't happen. So peace with India is a far cry, and I think we should as a nation stop wishing for anything to happen. Okay, the so-called peace across the LAC It's training at its bits. One odd firing has already taken place. Let's see what happens as the summer comes. Right, this is the time when things will start heating up and something will happen. Look, Pakistan is in a cul-de-sac. It doesn't have money to repay loans. Their circular debt has boiled over. China has not put money anymore into that CPC, though they keep saying it will go in and all that and all that, and their railways and all gone. Uh, they've told the IMF that they can't increase tariffs anymore, so that is also stuck. So their equation with the Gulf has gone bad. That is why the army chief had to go to Saudi again. We don't know what the outcome is. The outcome is obviously not great. Otherwise, they would have made a hue and cry about it. Okay, and you see the Saudis are indirectly okay with whatever Israel is doing. So there is a muddle, and Pakistan has mouthed everything against Israel. Right. So this with Pakistan will continue. It is not finding any solutions. And of course, that virus is there, whether you like it or not, and they don't have vaccines. And vaccines which they have are Chinese vaccines. So where will they go? So they have a problem. They have a real problem. And from my side, just leave them there. Ignore them.
Mhm.
Let them stew in their own juices. That's the way I look at it.
I think that is what is happening. You don't see a reaction from the Indian government about any of these dialogues coming from.
Yeah, actually, at this point of time, I don't think we should react to anything but look after ourselves.
Correct.
The focus of our government should be how to get us out of our own mess.
That is true, sir. Sir, we spoke about the Chinese vaccines. From there, one small little island nation comes to mind, which is Seychelles. Till a couple of days ago, you had news congratulating Seychelles about vaccinating 60% of its population with Sinopharm. As luck would have it, their cases are going up. And it seems like Seychelles have bought the bitter biscuit from the Chinese.
Look, I'll put it another way. We don't have to do anything.
Hmm.
The virus will do everything for us. Okay, their own virus will kill them. That's what I've been always maintaining. But you look at it from this way. Let's analyze from Seychelles. Seychelles had 60% Sinopharm and 60%, 40% AstraZeneca, and despite this, 100% people being vaccinated, there's a surge there.
Yeah.
Now, New York Times came out with a item which said, "Look, this is happening because of Sinopharm." They pointed the fingers at Sinopharm vaccine because that vaccine has been under a lot of scrutiny.
Yes.
In UAE, people have had to take the third dose to build immunity. And Brazil had proven that it had only 50% immunity. Now, all this immunity, efficacy and all that was against the initial virus, not the other viruses. Right? The South African variant or the UK variant, or for that matter, the Indian variant, which is now a variant of concern. Right. Whereas the AstraZeneca, that is what we are using in the SII, Covishield, Covaxin, and Pfizer, Moderna, these are all okay with these also. Right. So the risk is not for Seychelles. The risk is for China. Just think, China, 50% of China's capacity is Sinopharm, which is not efficacious. It cannot carry out or improve that vaccine in a hurry because it doesn't have the cases to do so. See, vaccines you can roll out only in places where they're affected. They don't have it as per them, so they cannot develop it. And that's a fact because they're carrying out trials outside. Right? So they cannot develop it. And they remain vulnerable. I keep maintaining this. India will go through this trial by fire. Will lose people, will everything. But in the process, you're building herd immunity slowly. Your vaccination drive is taking also will come on line in a month or so. right? That's what it appears. Okay,
mm,
when you start vaccinate, at the end of the day, we have vaccinated over 17 crore people. It's not a mean achievement. So your vaccination will go up, and you burnt that the virus has burnt through your countryside. Some immunity gets developed there also, and both these will reach. You'll reach herd immunity faster sooner or later, like USA. And in which case you can, I mean, you can just open your economy and keep going.
mm.
Uh, I mean, just think it a little over the larger period. But China won't be there, right? The risk is for China. Seychelles, so if not this for 1 lakh vaccines, they'll get from somewhere else and carry on. But the indication is different. I mean, is a larger indication. And remember one more thing about China. Just recently, they came out with figures that their population has not grown that much.
Yes.
In the past 10 years, it has only grown 72 million. If you look, if you break down the figures, it is well possible that these 72 million, most of it, that growth is in the first 5 years. Or maybe it has grown more than 75 2 million in the first 5 years rather than the last 5 years, where it had probably shrunk also. And it was from their own news that it had come that their birth rates had gone down. So suddenly you say that your population has increased is fake, which is typical China. So if your population is going down, your population is aging, which is a fact, and you don't have young people and you have issues, it's going to be a problem on your economy. And if it in the next 4 5 years, if the Chinese economy doesn't go up the way it is planned, there'll never be a superpower. Their economy will start plateauing out and it will start going down. If their economy if their population starts shrinking as it is, and their economy doesn't take off, it will go down. Their economy won't take off if they don't have vaccines. If this variant, the bulk of their population is vulnerable, so there is a issue there.
I think a lot of people still want to know why the damn thing is not gone to China back again.
It'll
As
go
it's,
one day. No one's going to, escape it.
mm.
There are only two ways to escape this virus. I mean, you either go through the infection or you get vaccinated. One of the two. If your vaccine is ineffective, you don't have a choice.
Then also
You'll
it's
get infected.
mm.
Yeah.
So moving on from Seychelles, let's go into Nepal, where Prime Minister Oli went through a bit of a roller coaster ride. He lost his seat and then he gained it back within a day. It shows the kind of political influx and the political imbalance within the country. Apart from it going through a very major COVID surge, which is happening there, and wherein the Prime Minister himself is asking for help all around the world. Uh, with this kind of a imbalanced government, and it's going to fall back on India. We know that right now, probably.
Yeah, I agree with you. This is an opportunity for us.
Mm,
The political flux in China, in Nepal won't go. It will take a long time for it to go. And I have spoken to a lot of Nepalese who work around here in this area. In fact, there are a lot of Nepalese population who come to China and work. So when I speak to them, they all tell me that their villages are very badly affected. It has not come out in the news because of lack of communications within Nepal and all that. But a lot of people are dying in the countryside, and it doesn't come out. So there is an effect. There's a lot of instability. And this is one period where I think maybe in the next 10 15 days, once we start stabilizing, we should start helping Nepal out.
mm,
This is the time for us to, get Nepal back into the grip. And I don't see the Chinese doing anything about it.
yeah.
Right. And I don't think they can do anything about it also. Because the distance precludes anything. And what can the Chinese do? They're not going to come and, help. Whereas we can help, offer a lot of things. The governments of UP, Bihar, West Bengal can do quite a bit. And even Sikkim.
Mm. As a matter of fact, the Chinese have drawn a line. It's a line on a paper, but it's a line on the Mount Everest where they say that Nepalese Sherpas will
Yeah,
not be allowed.
that's all there. So all these can be played out
Mm.
with Nepal. And I don't think it'll get lost on this.
Hmm.
on the Nepalese either. So sooner or later, you'll see the if we can make use of this opportunity, we have space to help out Nepal and retrieve lost ground there.
So what you're saying is basically gaining capital within the people rather than the.
Yeah, people centric approach.
Hmm.
No, why people with people with even with the politicians?
Hmm. Okay.
I mean, in this instability, you help them through. Democracy is democracy. China doesn't understand it.
Interesting. So, Bhutan, a very small country, which actually resulted in a. I think it triggered off the India-China issue, which was. I mean, it wasn't in the mainstream for stuff happened in 2013, 2005, and so on and so forth. It wasn't in the mainstream, and nobody considered China such a big a threat until and unless Doklam happened. In the past months, there were certain eventful talks between Bhutan and China with regards their boundary issue, which is on a map which I will put across here. There was a surprising claim that came across, which is the wildlife sanctuary in the northern part of Bhutan. It's a mystery, as actually, as a matter of fact, not many people have written about it or spoken about it. I'd like you to tell us what this whole thing is, because suddenly this thing propping up.
See, last year, Bhutan had gone to some world body for funding for the Saktang Wildlife Sanctuary to develop it.
Hmm.
When they went for the finances for that, China said, no, this is ours. It laid claim to Saktang Sanctuary. Now, if you look at the map and see the Saktang Sanctuary, it is well in depth in Bhutan. It actually comes behind it falls absolutely almost behind the Tawang area.
Yes.
It comes to the rear of Tawang. And if China gets there, it's going to outflank us. Okay, so they made this claim. Denials by Bhutan or not, they said, no, this is our area and left it. Now, last month in Kunming, when there were talks on the boundary issue, the Chinese put up an ingenious plan or proposal. Uh, okay, to put it in perspective, uh, Bhutan had problems on the boundary with China at three places. Doklam, at a place called Jakarlung and Pasamlung on the north of Bhutan. That's about 560 kilometers. Doklam is about 260 square
Hmm.
kilometers.
Okay.
The third thing which has now come in is Sakte. Earlier, the thing was swap that. China was saying, you take that area but give us Doklam. And the Bhutanese were rejecting it. Now, China's old salami slice tactic. They said, okay, we'll give up the claim on Sakteng, you give us Doklam, and that will retain. It's a three-card trick, no? Typical China. But the Bhutanese were stood firm. They said, no, there are guiding principles for boundary settlement which were there from 1959, and there was a status quo which was declared at that point of time. So the Chinese said, no, we will change that and we'll go with a new thing and all. Then the Bhutanese very calmly told them, the status quo agreement and that boundary settlement and mutual respect and all these were included at your behest. Now you want to change with new thing. Any case, Saktang is out of question. We don't even agree that it is yours. Or there's a this thing. How can any place which is 100 kilometers in our area be yours? Right? There's nothing. So out, we'll only talk of these two. And then, of course, naturally that whole talk petered out and some anodyne statements came out of mutual, we'll take it forward in the next round and came back. But the Bhutanese have played smart and tough. Of course, we would have told them what to do. And we also have to understand that Bhutan and China doesn't have diplomatic relations.
Correct.
Their relations are through us. So people would also told them, brief them, look, this is the way to handle them, and this is what you're going to get because we know how to handle China. Right. So that's how it is. But we have to keep alert. And of course, Chinese are will keep on saying that we've nibbled into Bhutan, we've nibbled into this thing, we've built villages there. The same photographs will keep coming back and again and again and again, or part of influence operations.
Mm.
That's it. All right. So that's
But
where Bhutan is. Yeah, again, we have to help Bhutan out in its vaccination and all that, without doubt. Because whatever problems we can get to help Bhutan is that much better for us. Bhutan is critical for us.
mm,
Unlike Nepal is critical, but I think Bhutan is more critical because it is wedged between Sikkim and Arunachal Pradesh. Doklam problem gives elbow room to China for any operations through Sikkim. The Sakteng issue which they have raised gives elbow room to China for any operations through the Kameng sector, Tawang. So helping Bhutan is critical to us.
it's a very interesting thing. So one thing, one can't study the Indian neighborhood without Chinese influence or China trying to do something against us. And it is very funny that so many things have happened over the past 2 decades, and these are not new developments wherein the Chinese have not just gone and shaken hands and become friends with two lollipops given to each other. It's been happening for such a long time, and we've kind of been. I think we've been noticing it, but we've not been, active enough of responding to it the way probably we are doing it today.
No, we've been responding to it always. We are been aware that China will do everything, and we've known for the past 1 or 2 decades that China is going to encroach into South Asia, and they will do whatever they have to wean all these states away, the Himalayan states away from India. That's on the cards. The only thing is now it's a little more blatant and it's open, like it's happened in Bangladesh. See, they came into Bangladesh. They've had trade deals. They have had a lot of things with Bangladesh. Now, if you see off late, I mean, their ambassador, Chinese ambassador to Bangladesh, he came out with a statement that Bangladesh will have to bear the consequences if it joins Quad, right? So that means they apprehend that Bangladesh will join Quad. Which is a good thing, mind you, if they join the Quad or align with the Quad, and they're worried about it. So, and Bangladesh has very rightly told them take off. Don't interfere in our affairs. We'll do what we want, and our relationship is different. What we do with others is not your concern.
Hmm.
So that has been very clearly communicated, right? And to an extent, even Sri Lanka has communicated that. The people of Sri Lanka communicated recently when the defense minister of uh, China went to Sri Lanka. The people expressed anger at it by honking horns and all that in
Yes.
public. And not only that, there's another statement which came out by it's a double-edged statement which the Sri Lankans put out that Sri Lanka will never allow anyone from outside the region to come into
Hmm.
this area.
Major powers.
So it could be construed as a message to USA. It could also be construed as a message to China, not to us because we are there, right? So they made a very double-edged statement, a loaded statement. So I'm sure China will understand it better, right? So China, for all its investments in Bangladesh and Nepal, um, doesn't seem to be making headway beyond a point at this point of time, and I doubt if things will see what has happened also at a global level. There is a realization that aggressive China and a powerful China is not good for the world,
Hmm.
and every nation is worried about a debt trap, so they don't want to fall back. So they very soon you might see people uh, playing out China. China might not be able to do the checkbook diplomacy it used to do earlier, right? So there is a realization, and others are also telling everyone wherever the China man goes with his bag of money, right, and that money is loaded with strategic terms and conditions. Firstly, everyone knows that it's going to happen, so they're going to be wary about it. And secondly, wherever the Chinaman goes today, there is someone already there telling you, look, don't do it. You're going to get into problems like the other guy. So there is this pushback will happen,
Mm.
right? And so that's how it is. So
Bangladesh was an interesting thing. As a matter of fact, the Bangladeshi representative actually told the Chinese to maintain decency and decorum.
yeah, that's a very strong statement which has come out, which is good, right? And look, sooner or later, this aggressive behavior of China will go. Like I said, the risk of China, which China faces is the virus itself and their population. And you'll see that, and the pushback which the all the countries are, having on China. So things will start. Look, it's only 1 year since all this business started. So it'll take a year or two before China becomes normal.
Mm. And for us to actually respond, it will take another 2-3 months before this pandemic comes
Yeah,
down.
yeah. For us, see, like I say, we might not take great steps against China. We can defend ourselves against China at this point of time, recover. But our outreach to our neighbors should start.
Correct. I think by just going through this neighborhood, one can realize that the situation around us is in lurch, is not in a
Yeah,
very happy position.
yeah.
You
Not in a
spoke,
happy position for anyone.
yeah, you spoke about the Sri Lankans. Poor thing, because of the entire United Nations issue, they had to still go ahead and take $500 million from the Chinese.
Yeah,
And,
they had no choice. So that's how it is.
they've also agreed not to renegotiate or restudy the terms of the lease of the Hambantota port.
Yeah, they see everyone has a bottom line, no?
Yeah,
So that bottom line they'll not breach anymore. Earlier they were taken in by the sweet talk of Chinese. Now that talk is no more sweet.
mm.
So that will things were there. This is where we need to step in and do more.
Sir, amongst all these countries that we've discussed, and the last one I think we will discuss is Myanmar or Burma. There's a whole different paradigm which is going on there.
Myanmar has gone into almost a tailspin. At this point of time, things are quite this thing with the armed rebels now siding with the democracy movement and against the armed forces, and it might descend into a civil war kind of a situation. Already, the China has told its state-run firms to start evacuating non-essential people. So, okay, so that is a bit of a blowback for China, right? And I see some more issues in Myanmar coming up. Myanmar will be in a state of instability for a long time.
Hmm.
Okay, now, so that's how Myanmar is. Now, if you take all these into consideration, Pakistan is a known problem. So I don't, we just continue dealing with it the way it is. Which is the one which is going to affect you the most? Two, Nepal and Myanmar. Nepal is political problems and the virus. Nepal is a pretty big country for to go unstable along our borders with China. So we have to take care of that. The second is your eastern flank. Myanmar being the way it is, that instability in Myanmar will spill over to your northeast is a given. That's a problem. But the more important thing is it gives you an opportunity to play a role in Myanmar. And we need to be a little more adventurous to get to that level where we start the time will come when there needs there is a requirement for a negotiation between the democracy and the military. And that's where India gets in, and we shouldn't leave that space at that point of time.
Yeah, we should leave it open to the Chinese.
Yeah, and getting hold of Myanmar and securing that backyard is important for us.
Whatever
People
may.
don't understand it, but Myanmar to me is a very important country.
Mm.
It's in fact very important for the Indo-Pacific region. completely. I must also tell you, see, China has been trying to get hold of two ports. One is the
Mm.
Sonadia port in Bangladesh, which is now gone because there's an area called Matrabari, which is just next to Sonadia. Sonadia is Cox's Bazar,
Yes.
north of it, which is a deep sea port being developed by Japan. So that port development by China and Bangladesh is over. So it leaves you with Kayakpu and the China Myanmar economic corridor.
Mm.
If that goes through, the Chinese Navy is going to be in the Indian Ocean. It's going to be a two ocean Navy and a superpower. You can't allow that to happen at any cost. The court can't allow it to happen, you can't allow it to happen. So that is why I keep saying Myanmar, Myanmar, Myanmar. You cannot allow China to break that Malacca dilemma. The distance from Kayakpu to Yunnan, uh, 500-600 kilometers, that's it.
Mm.
Maybe a little more, but it's one straight road, the old Lido road.
Leader road, yes. So what does
So our focus is Myanmar, Nepal. The rest in their pecking order as they come.
even during this pandemic, do you see anything moving between India and Myanmar? Because of I'm sure.
Yeah, see, like I said, uh, the instability there, there will come a point. Suppose maybe some fighting will erupt, or maybe some fighting might not erupt. But
Okay.
the democracy people and the Tatmadaw, that's the Myanmar's army, at some point of time will start negotiating. So at that is what we need to facilitate and help them go through,
Hmm. We have
right?
to be
And we
somewhere.
need to step into that space
Hmm. Hmm.
and then assist them wherever and get the quad in because and open Myanmar up.
No, I agree with you. Say instability in the northeast is directly in proportion to the instability in that in Myanmar as
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
The tribes are the same.
yeah, yeah. So
So,
across we have a lot of issues with Myanmar.
hmm. So we discussed today in this talk the road which is connecting, supposed to be connecting the Wakhan corridor in the north from Afghanistan to the situation in Pakistan down to Sri Lanka. We discussed about the virus situation in Seychelles. We've gone to the Bangladeshi question, which is uh, I think in a lot of minds, especially in the Chinese, after getting a big rebuttal from them, and the Bhutanese talks. Finally, we discussed the Myanmar issue, wherein, as General said, that it is something that we need to focus on as soon as possible to ensure that at a larger picture, the the access to the Chinese to the second oceans that they so bitterly desire should not be given. And apart from that, Myanmar, leaving China aside, Myanmar is pretty important for us because a lot of people that stay in the northeast are from similar or the same tribes staying across the border in Myanmar. And when those guys are going to get affected, there is going to be instability within the northeast as well. So I think this is a very important subject for us to understand and for us to keep revisiting because there are loads of developments that happen within our very neighborhood rather than in the next circle of our neighborhood. It's the first border nations that we need to study harder. And thank you, sir, for bringing alive this entire subject and for making us realize that I think India has a look east policy, but the neighborhood first must be uh, brought up much harder today. Sir.
Thanks a lot, Adi. It was a great. It was great talking about all our neighbors. We should end this with our prayers to all those who are affected and are recovering from the Chinese virus. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Jai Hind.